Good day. My name is Kurt Culbertson, and I'd like to talk to you about the Village Creek Floodplain Restoration Plan for the city of Birmingham. I am principal in charge of Studio Kurt Culbertson, the individual leading the overall consulting team. Elena Manker in my office is our project manager, and Latrice Slade will be providing uh, input on community engagement, the overall plan, and a variety of other topics. And Craig Clarkson and his team at Sherwood Design Engineers will be addressing water resource engineering. The existing trail and pedestrian bridges that have been built in Pratt and Ensley are labeled the Village Creek Greenway. And in reflecting upon the existing improvements, it really causes you to wonder what the long-term village for vision is for all of Village Creek and the potential for a greenway along the entire length throughout the city. Many of you may have seen this plan before. This is the 1924 plan by the Olmsted brothers for the park and boulevard system of Birmingham. As you can see, there was a greenway, a linear park envisioned from Roebuck Springs in the east, where the spring daylights and becomes Village Creek, all the way to the county line on the west at Pratt and Ensley. This idea put forth by the Olmsteds has endured for quite some time. A review of the Red Rocks Trail Plan shows that this dash line that you see here on the north of the city roughly follows the alignment of Village Creek. Several segments, our area in Pratt and Ensley, a trail on Eno Ridge has been constructed, and other segment further east have been the beginnings of a trail along Village Creek. And certainly this idea of a Village Creek Greenway persists in everyone's mind. In reflecting upon what's possible in addressing flooding in Pratt and Ensley, which is really our immediate challenge, we've taken a look at the entire length of Village Creek from Roebuck Springs, the airport, from the airport to Highway 79, from Highway 79 to the Interstate 65, from 65 down to the Wade Sand and Gravel Mine, and then from Wade Sand and Gravel to the city limit line on the west. Each of these we've identified, at least preliminarily, a set of objectives and actions that will be needed to improve flooding throughout the Village Creek corridor and perhaps set the stage for the creation of a linear trail and greenway. Sherwood Design Engineers, Craig Clarkson's firm, has conducted what's called an H&H study. That H&H study uses current topography, new rainfall information, and so forth to calculate the 100-year floodplain. The dark blue area that you see here is the regulatory floodway. This is the floodway that's currently used in regulating land use regulations in the city. The 100-year floodplain, the crosshatched area that you see in blue, is 3 to 4 times the width of that floodplain, meaning that many properties are currently subject to flooding in major storm events. And that is consistent with the city's hotspot data reporting of particular flood events throughout the city. The area that you see outlined in red is our subject property, the area for which we are creating a plan. One of the things that occurred to us is that the more land that is protected within this floodplain, the more land that can be available for stormwater storage, the more land that can be available for revegetation, which also helps reduce flood events, the healthier it will be for the Village Creek ecosystem, but also for the overall community by reducing flood events. In Chattanooga, where a couple of years ago we prepared the parks and open space plan for that city, we prepared a similar map. And what we did was identify city-owned vacant land throughout the city, land that was in the floodplain, it was steep slopes, perhaps it was wetlands, and perhaps should not be developed long-term. Chattanooga, unlike Birmingham, is short of parks and open space. And presented with the map we prepared, the mayor of Chattanooga declared 500 acres of that land as open space. The potential exists to do the same in the Village Creek Basin, and the areas that you see in red are city-owned vacant lands. Perhaps some are in schools or parks or other kinds of open space, but many of these are tax parcels that have come back onto the city property rolls. In addition, there are other parcels of land you see here in yellow that are also vacant that may be able to be protected long term. In working with our Village Creek Working Group, comprised of a variety of city departments, Freshwater Land Trust, and the Nature Conservancy, we've identified a series of critical success factors that are important to achieve in realizing this plan. One is to create a plan that can and will be built. There was a park plan prepared in 2013 that has never been realized, and the local neighborhoods feel a great deal of frustration by the inaction over this to realize these plans. The second critical success factor is to develop a phasing plan that can be realized over time. It is quite likely that the needs in this area, that the ideas that will be generated will be more than can be built or funded in the near term. And so a clear roadmap to realize the long-term vision will be important. It's important that the plan be supported by the local community, that we co-create this plan with local residents. It's important that it serve as a model for future phases of Village Creek Greenway from the county line on the west all the way to Roebuck Springs, that achieve a set of measurable performance standards, that there be a plan and secured funding for maintenance, that we create a plan that not only addresses flooding, but stimulates the redevelopment of downtown Ensley as well, and that we foster champions and long-term stewards for the park. By measurable performance standards, these can take on a variety of techniques or factors. One are environmental, such as improved water quality, the removal of invasive plant material, increasing tree canopy and the native plants, which provides shade both for local residents, but also helps moderate water temperatures, which will help with fisheries restoration, and increasing fauna, bird life, butterflies, and so forth throughout the area. There might be a set of recreational or community metrics. These might include recreational activities by local residents, get people out and moving to reduce diabetes, to reduce obesity, to improve heart health. The park can be a place for community gatherings, and we need to be mindful that whenever you make a major investment in a park, a neighborhood becomes more attractive, property values might rise, and we need to protect against displacement and gentrification of the very residents for which the park is being created. There may be economic metrics like job creation and skill development from the creation of the park. The city's identified a desire to restore Village Creek and Valley Creek and other drainages throughout the city. The things we learned by building Village Creek Park can be applicable throughout the city and perhaps create jobs for local residents who learn from this park development process. There will likely be increase of property values, and we hope that those property values will accrue to local residents as part of this park development and not contribute to displacement and gentrification. And then there are a range of aesthetic solutions that are desired by local residents in the larger community. What is the right balance? As we call it Goldilocks. What's too hot? What's too cold? What's just right? The balance between naturalizing the site, essentially creating woodlands, bottomland hardwood forest, which helps improve the quality of the area, of the ecology, and the goal of having well-maintained, manicured park-like areas as well. Can we incorporate public art into the park design? Expressions of design that are relevant to the local community, perhaps telling an interpretive narrative for Village Creek. That narrative may be about the ecology of Village Creek. It may be about the industrial heritage of the Village Creek corridor. It may be about the local culture and history of Pratt and Ensley, the story of Ensley jazz, for example. This is the plan that was prepared in 2013. The actual area we're studying is a bit larger than this, which is wonderful. But as you can see, this plan included an area of fairly passive recreation, this module that you see in the upper part of this image, but it also included 3 soccer fields, a series of baseball and softball fields of different kinds, parking lots, tennis courts, and a lot of development occurring in the floodplain. We have been told that this plan never went to FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and we don't know if it would have been approved, but it's unlikely that this much fencing and hard paving in the floodplain would have passed muster, because that fencing has the potential to capture trash, capture debris, and increase flooding. So we were concerned in our initial meetings with local residents that they would feel like this is the plan they're expecting to be built, and they would be disappointed if something different is now proposed. But what we found is, after a dozen years, the feeling is that the needs of the community may have changed, and what's important to them is that we re-engage with the community, that we actually build a park and not simply create yet another plan, and that there be a strategy in place to ensure high quality maintenance of the park that is built. Now, the study that Sherwood Design Engineers, if you look at it at a larger scale over our project area, includes a range of inundation depths of the depth of water that would occur in a major flood event. The darkest blue areas, the navy blue, are the 500-year floodplain. They tend to happen at about 0.2% per year. The lighter royal blue areas are the 100-year floodplain. They tend to happen on about a 1% per year frequency. And then the lighter blue and the pink areas flood more frequently. The darkest pink area is a 5-year flood. The lightest pink area is the 2-year flood. These areas, and the lightest pink would have a 50% chance of flooding every year. So we believed we need to set reasonable expectations about how much we will be able to reduce flooding in Pratt and Ensley. We think it's important that existing residents be protected from flooding, that schools and churches and community centers and all of the civic facilities that local residents be utilized be protected from flooding, and that the roads and streets they drive down on a daily basis be protected from flooding. But at the same time, much of this park area will be subject to frequent flooding, and therefore we need to design a park that will be resilient. There may be opportunities for improving flood conditions further upstream and downstream. For example, this is the Wade sand and gravel operation. At one time, the area that you see water, the depth of the pit, is where Village Creek flowed. When this was the Thomas Steel Mill in the early 1900s, Village Creek was realigned around the north side of the property, and we hope to meet with Wade Sand and Gravel and determine what might be possible in terms of the ability to accommodate a trail, to accommodate floodplain improvements on their property, and perhaps even long term, perhaps when the useful life of the mine is past, to be able to store storm water in the pit and to meter that water out gradually over time. We've also looked at elevation as a key to floodplain restoration. Different vegetations along Village Creek occur at different elevations, different heights above the water level. So, and this can be subtle but important variations: 0 to 2 feet, 2 to 5 feet, more than 5 feet, more than 10 feet. Vegetation can change quite dramatically. We also looked at soil conditions as a potential clue to what can grow where. And as you can see, soil conditions are fairly uniform. These are urban soils that have been highly modified and not particularly great farmland. They are hydric soils, which means that they are generally pretty saturated with water. And as you might well imagine, over time, they have received a lot of silt from farther upstream, typically industrial pollutions. And so, not only while our mandate is to address flooding in Pratt and Ensley, not only do we want to address that, but we also want to look at how we might be able to improve water quality and soil quality in Village Creek as part of this process. This is an illustration of what kind of vegetation might be found. As you get further west out into the county, Village Creek becomes much more naturalized, and these are the kinds of vegetations you find. There is deep water, indeed some plant material growing in the water immediately along Village Creek. There are natural levees, the toe that you see here, where other vegetations might grow. Then there's the broad uh, lower floodplain, which is important. That has another form of vegetation, the upper floodplain, and then the uplands, which are less prone to flooding. And so there's an important aesthetic question here. How much of this site gets returned to bottomland hardwood forest, to woods, if you will? How much of it can be manicured, and what's the right balance between those two? This is a park I worked on, designed in Lafayette, Louisiana. Similar situation. At the bottom of this image is an existing stream that is currently being restored, a concrete line stream that's being restored. In this park, we actually dug a lake of about 5 acres. That lake is deep enough to accommodate fisheries, urban fisheries, is something we think could be of value to the residents of Pratt and Ensley. It's recreation that can be accomplished without much expense. And then there are portions of the site that remain native woodlands. And then the edges of the park, of the lake, are revegetated entirely in native plant material. And then the balance of the park is maintained parkland. There are many music festivals that happen in Lafayette. A major Acadian music festival occurs here in Monkus Park, and you can see the amphitheater that has been built. It is a simple structure with 4 columns, something that we think can pass the 100-year floodplain and might be a model for what might occur at Village Creek Park, and perhaps becomes a setting for Function in the Junction, the major music event that happens in Pratt and Ensley now. That idea of celebrating the history of Pratt and Ensley, of Erskine Hawkins and Tuxedo Junction, of Dr. Anderson, can be part of the narrative that might be expressed in the design of the park as well. Monkus Park, as you can see, is the edges of the park are entirely native plant material. They've simply naturalized. They don't require major maintained beds. They're predominantly native canna and iris species. And then the uplands, the grass areas that you see, are filled with a variety of native tree species. This is an example from the Houston Arboretum, and then you can see even the wetland areas can become interesting. The ability to stroll along a boardwalk may be another feature of the park. Louisiana, Lafayette is the native home of the Louisiana iris that you see here in combination with cypress trees. There are multiple species of iris that are native to Alabama, which might be utilized in Village Creek Park. So a very simple palette: iris, cannas, mowed grass, a variety of trees. Quite beautiful, I think. And certainly there's a cost involved in maintaining them, but trying to keep the palette quite simple and well within reach. There may be smaller areas, such as the play area that you see here, that are available to local residents as you move along it. And then if you look elsewhere within the Birmingham area, you can see examples of what that maintenance might look like. Here you see um, a bike path, a running path. On the left, you see mowed grass. On the west, on the right, you see that woodland landscape, but perhaps with a little bit of tailored edge that's possible to give some sense of comfort about security and safety as you move within the park. Perhaps like at Patton Park, also in Birmingham, there's the possibility of creating an amphitheater, again, as a venue for function in the junction, perhaps. It may be possible to tell the story of the industrial heritage of Pratt and Ensley. And that's not only a narrative, but it's important to know that there is a legacy of pollution in the area. In the early 1920s or so, Village Creek was channelized. You can see in this 1924 map the length of the meanders that once existed there. That slowed water down. It allowed a more natural setting for vegetation and wildlife. And we can use this 1924 map of the meanders perhaps as a guide to restoring Village Creek. Perhaps the park contains some introduced stream meanders that help create recreate the original conditions. Here you see a long legacy of contamination along Village Creek from that industrial heritage and elsewhere in the park. So cleaning up soil quality, improving soil quality is a big issue. We also want to improve water quality. That can be done by creating riffles within the stream and also installing trash catchers, as you see here in other parts of the creek. A fancy word, but it's also possible to clean the soil with plants, a term sometimes called phytoremediation. Sunflowers happen to be a very good accumulator of pollutants from the soil. They can pull up heavy metals, they can pull up hydrocarbons, and so forth. And perhaps before the park is built, there can be a period of time when phytoremediation is conducted to improve soil conditions in the park as well. You may well know that Pratt and Ensley are a food desert. It's difficult to find good places to buy healthy food within the local area. And so urban gardening is another idea that has been suggested for the park. We need to do soil testing in the park as well, but if we can clean up the soils, or perhaps if we can create raised bed like the Jones Valley Public Garden has done, we can create food production in conjunction with the Jackson Olin High School horticultural program, but also as a way to supplementing the diet of local residents. And then finally, we want to be mindful that the investment in the park needs to work synergistically with the revitalization of downtown Ensley. The downtown framework plans for Pratt and Ensley that you see here are good plans. They have a lot of great ideas. They're not as reflective of the fact that Village Creek and its floodplain flow through these neighborhoods, so it may be a bit aggressive in terms of how much redevelopment can occur here. But as we say, there are some good ideas. For example, the idea of using Avenue E and F as connectors, about promenades and walkways that would connect downtown to the park. These are examples of a green street in Houston, Texas, continuous rain garden, we call it, along the edge of Bagby Street. Bagby Street has inlets that allow stormwaters from the street to flow into this rain garden, and then the park is then approved. The water quality in the rain garden is improved by the natural function of the plants and the plant material. Another example of how rain gardens can help to improve stormwater runoff. And there are examples of that along First Avenue in Birmingham as well. And so we will be updating this urban design context plan. The streets you see in green are potential streets for Green Street improvements, connectivity east-west, north-south, connecting the major civic areas of Pratt and Ensley to the park and connecting them together. And we want to be mindful about how future plans for the park can connect out into the county and upstream over time as well. As you can see, there is adequate head height along the railroad tracks to the west side of Pratt and Ensley for a bike or pedestrian trail to continue, hopefully someday, across the city water and sanitation plants out into Jefferson County as well. This is the schedule we're working on. We're anticipating our first community workshop in January, a second community workshop in March, and our intent is to be back with the preferred plan in July. Our current thinking is to have a booth or a table at Function in the Junction and a set of image boards that maps that people can see and review and offer additional comments before we finalize the plan in September. So we thank you for your interest and hope you will feel free to contact us or follow us as our work progresses, and please provide your input. Thank you.